Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, myself, BBD. We are talking ball. CSs are underway. ALCS 1-0. Texas Rangers as they win a 2-0 game. Jordan Montgomery traded away from the Yankees because they didn't think he could start playoff games. Really awesome playoff start. 6.2 shutty into the vaunted Texas Rangers pen, they do their job. We'll talk about that series and what has changed in one game. Phillies and my Snakes about to tee it up tonight. There's also a little Buster Only came out with an article that was biggest questions for the AL and NLCS, so we'll dive into that. And we'll touch upon the football a little bit. It was a nice weekend of football. I play some good bets and some bad bets. We'll talk about that. Let's do some baseball. You know by now, Houston lost game 1 at home. Jordan Montgomery shoved. Evan Carter, the rookie, put on a display. Big controversy. Controversy is dramatic. Big story right now is Evan Carter is out of the game 2 lineup. Framber Valdez, the lefty on the bump. I think Evan Carter is like 0 for 10 versus lefties, so the Rangers aren't going to start him. I assume that means our guy Robbie Grossman will be back in the middle of that lineup. He sure is.
Oh, yeah.
Hitting third. Knock him around Bobby.
He is mashing lefties, so.
Mitch Garver down there. There's only 2 pure lefties in the Rangers lineups today. Nate Lowe, Nathaniel Lowe, and Corey Seager. So they're playing the matchup game against Framber. I know Texas Ranger fans were feeling pretty good. Josh Young and Leody Taveras, one of last night's heroes, with his solo home run with nice numbers off of Framber. Simeon, solid. The rest of the people not really jumping off the map. Nathaniel Lowe, not bad. As Houston will take on Evaldi, a couple of those guys have really good numbers. Yordan, Bregman, Altuve. So that's going to be an interesting to see. Is he going to navigate that? Is he going to get banged around? Is playoff Nathan Evaldi the folk hero that he's kind of been built up to be pitching in Texas? I would lean, yeah. But that's why we play the games. And that's actually Framber Valdez in that Buster Only article I referenced. He was listed as one of the question marks that rival execs were wondering what kind of performance they were going to see, because Framber was dominant last year, 2.82 ERA. He had that quality start streak. Not exactly the same deal. That sinker that used to be his dominant, it allowed him to be better each time through the rotation. People don't think that's what it is. And Framber did get touched up a couple times in recent playoff starts. So I'm interested to see the Texas Rangers, who are locked in, and I know we're coming off of a 2-0 game, but it doesn't feel like they give away too many at-bats. They're obviously familiar. Both sides are. The Texas Rangers did play almost a perfect game last night. No base running errors, no defensive errors. Monty and the rest of the pitching staff was great. Even the Bregman ball that ends up next to the Crawford boxes. That's one of those in baseball. Any given day, something can happen just a little different. If Bregman is not even a half second, like what difference is the timing between Alex Bregman hitting that ball into the Crawford boxes and him hitting it 10 feet to the right? I don't know. Not a numbers guy. But Texas gets it done. They'll at least split in Houston. And they're about to play a 3:37 Central Time playoff game, which that feels weird, coming off of a night game on Sunday into that. And interested to see how Yordan reacts. This is kind of live. Beep, 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 beep. Dusty had a very odd interview talking about Yordan. Basically, he came out and he said, everyone is sick. I'm sick. Yordan's sick. I don't know. It's kind of odd quotes Yordan Alvarez didn't run out when they did the player introduction yesterday, so people were wondering what that is. And it's always a fun game to play, I guess, unless you're a Houston fan. But imagine if you're actually sick, if you actually are like horribly sick and you have to play a sport, that would stink. Jordan flu game. Let's see where the rest of that series goes. It is always funny to break it down. In a 7-game set, Texas has to win 3 of the next 6. That would be the math. Houston has to win 4 of 6 games against a good Texas Rangers team. So the stat that popped up was, I think teams that win game 1 win 62% of the time. If they win the first 2 games, going back to Texas for 3, that would screw the books. Not a phrase. Not even close to a phrase. Excited to see how Houston responds every time they are asked to respond. They usually answer the call. Well, meanwhile, if you're Texas, the offense didn't necessarily click last night, and you still came out of Houston with a dub. And the last time Houston was shut out in the playoffs, I want to say it was the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. So let's see what goes on there. DBacks and Phillies will tee it up tonight at 8 p.m. We got Zac Gallen wearing the North Carolina blue, repping MJ. He is a North Carolina guy. Big moment for him. I mean, Zac Gallen, if you're in the walls of baseball, you know Zac Gallen. He's one of the top pitchers in the game the past couple years. Cy Young votes in 20 and 22, and he will be in it this year. Also important, he is a Boris guy who will hit free agency in a couple years, 2026, so that's 2 years. Plays 24, plays 25. Jordan Montgomery, another Boris guy, earning himself a lot of money from his pitching in these very playoffs. Zac Gallen goes into Philly where he's a local boy. He's from Jersey, but he's from like the Jersey part of Philly. Famously, we interacted with parts of his family in the Philadelphia parking lot. You got his brother, I got his dad.
Yeah, I got his brother in like the hotel casino lobby.
Right.
And you got his dad in the parking lot?
Yes. And Zac Gallen famously mad at us for not taking him during our Cy Young draft this year, which was a horrid mistake. Everyone got a little cute on that one.
Yeah, everyone's last rounds got cute, and we felt bad about it.
And that's just our bad. That's just straight up our bad. So the 28-year-old in his prime going up against the Phillies lineup. It's Bryce Harper's birthday. Do what you want with that. That guy's a tough out either way. 31 years old. Younger than Judge.
Yeah.
Younger than me.
There was a boost on one of the apps that we're going to talk about later for him to hit a homer. I took it.
Interesting. I talked about it on Talking Baseball. I might have mentioned it here. I do like the Gallen matchup a little better versus the Phillies lineup than Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider is basically 2 pitches, fastball, slider. It's an electric fastball. It's an electric slider. That being said, with how good these Phillies hitters are, if you can reduce it to 2 options, and I know Strider's been throwing a changeup a little more this year, but in that final playoff start, he threw one early that was really high. Didn't look like he had a feel for that pitch. Never really felt like threat, and for how dominant and nasty he can be, if you're throwing that lineup of Phillies players a 50-50 option, a fastball slider, there's a good chance they're going to run into a couple. And they ended up running into a couple, and now the Braves are out of the playoffs. Zac Gallen, nice pitch mix, awesome location. I was very impressed watching him pitch to the Dodgers. I mean, tunneling, like any of the new age stuff, if you want to label it, used to just be deception. Excited to see him against the Phillies lineup because I think he can get them in between where if they're geared up for one or the other, they just got too many guys who are a problem. And it'll also be interesting to see, let's say they do get to Zac Gallen. Philly's feeling good. Like Philly, Dodgers, and Braves were the big dogs in the National League this year. And it was like, hey, Phillies could do their thing again, but they're going to have to get through those guys. Took out the Braves in 4, just like they did last year. Dodgers not there waiting for them. Phillies feeling really good. If they can get to Gallen today, the Diamondbacks ace, that could be all she wrote. That could be walking around confident we can't be stopped. I don't see that happening. I think Gallen is going to give them a really good start. I think the Diamondbacks will have one bunch inning. That's how they've been doing it this year. Wouldn't be surprised if it's early on Wheeler, too. Maybe first or second time around. Excited to see how both teams' bullpens come into play here. I think both of these bullpens have talented guys, and they have guys that are peaking, doing the October peaking, which you need in your bullpen. And there's also just going to be some guys put in interesting spots. I mean, Matt Strahm closing out the playoff game against the Braves. Feels cool when it happens and it looks good. What's it going to feel like otherwise? Ryan Thompson and Andrew Saalfrank coming out of the Diamondbacks pen are going to be put into some spots with this Phillies lineup that are just going to be crazy. There's going to be a middle inning or two. Zac Gallen is an ace. You're expecting and hoping for 6 out of him. That's kind of a playoff standard for a true one-type guy. Credit to the Snakes. Sewald and Ginkel, 8 and 9, have been pretty lights out. So that 7th inning, or if they need help getting through the 6th, that's going to be the fun lane to navigate if you're Torey Lovullo and the Snakes. While meanwhile, the Phillies are probably saying the same thing, but they've actually been attacking that lane more. They've been doing everything they can to keep the lead with Alvarado, Sir Anthony. Even last game we saw Kimbrel come out in the 7th, and Topper figures out the rest. So interested to see how tonight's game goes. Hope we get some good back and forth. And I think the other news out of baseball world today was Kim Ng left the Florida Fish. She had an option on her contract. She opted out. It sounds like they were going to hire someone above her, like a president of baseball ops or whichever title they want to give it. I think that's important because, Kim Ng has done a good job. The Marlins got to the playoffs this year over your Padres, over your Mets. Behind
good moves at the deadline. It's not like she inherited some awesome situation.
Jake Berger, how are you? I know the Mets. I saw the Mets thrown around, but they also just hired a president of baseball operations. So if she's not into having someone, she has to report to someone. That job seems out. The Yankees are supposedly auditing, and she has ties to the Yankees. You wonder if there's a situation where she could get involved, but at the same time, I don't really see Brian Cashman giving up power, and there's also 2 other old GMs floating around the Yankees.
Yeah, like a full speculation, completely speculating, not based on any reports. Seems like if there was one job she would take where somebody could be above her, it would be the Yankees one.
Yeah, or even
if that was a Cashman elevated to president
or how about
GM.
Davis, there's a popular television show called Succession.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that. If that factored in, that could be interesting. There is another open job that people haven't seemed too excited for. The Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm. What
would that look like? So, Kim Ng, the first interesting baseball free agent. Excited to see where she lands. Obviously at this point, it's one of baseball's cooler stories. First female GM. Again, was a grind to get there. Definitely too much of a grind. But she's already found a certain level of success, and hopefully that tees her up for the next level of success. And I partially hope that's for my Yankees. So let's see what happens there. Excited to see the playoffs tonight. God, old man managers. Bochy, Baker. Is Lovullo the young man on the scale? How old's Torey Lovullo?
I think Torey's the young.
How old do you think Torey Lovullo is?
I feel like I know
52.
I was gonna say 53. Let's see.
Hello.
Oh, 58.
Good for him. Good
Looks
for him.
good.
I thought it could have been higher, but you never, the gray in the beard.
He's got Rob Thompson beat. He's 60.
He's
Dusty's
older
old.
than Rob Thompson? Or no? Okay.
Rob is older than him.
All managers over 58. Huh?
Yeah. I don't have Bochy's age off the top of my head. No, he's got that number beat. 68.
Bochy.
I knew he had the number beat. I just didn't know what the number was.
Gabe Kapler, 48 years old. Free agent.
That was around when sometime this week, and I forget what inspired it specifically, but I remember that Eric Wedge got an interview with the Yankees in 17, and I was like, how old is he? I think he's 48 right now. Or no, he's 48 at the time of that interview. I was like, oh, wasn't old. And I was like, oh, all right. He's just such a weird lane in baseball.
So wait, he didn't get a manager job when he was young?
He got manager jobs when he was young. When he got the Yankees job, when he got the Yankees interview, he was like, I think he was 48 at that time.
Because I was going to say, Eric Wedge in
Yeah, he's had
Cleveland,
2 manager jobs, yes.
I remember him being at least in his 30s.
Yeah, he was a young man manager.
He's 55 now.
Yeah.
Wedge was named the 39th manager of the Cleveland Indians at that time. That was the record. That was in 2002.
He was currently 35 his first year.
Currently 55. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's young.
Yeah.
When we were young.
Sorry to Eric Wedge you at a time like this.
Sorry to Eric Wedge. Sorry for us and Eric Wedge. It's kind of the baseball. We'll be live streaming tonight, like BBD will mention. We'll be placing some bets at the DraftKings Sportsbook because you can place a $5 bet on baseball, and you'll get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Plus, all customers can take a crack at a sweet payday with DraftKings same-game parlays. Put a couple bets together, rack them up for a shot at a major payout. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BAKERS. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with code BAKERS. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 888-778-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsible. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, licensee partner of Golden Nugget Lake Charles, 21 plus, ages vary by jurisdiction, void in Ontario, acdkng.co/baseball for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Big football weekend. I'll even caress the college football just a little bit because we had a big boy game. If you're easing your way into college football season or if you're not, number 8 versus number 7 in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. UW, Washington versus Oregon. Number 8 versus number 7 in UW. Bo Nix, Penix, couple Heisman candidates at quarterback. Be careful how you say that one. Washington ends up winning. My goodness. Some dramatics to end the first half. Oregon goes for a touchdown instead of a field goal at the end of the half. There's potential 3 points or 7 points, depending how that play would go down. And then Oregon is driving at the end of the game. They end up settling for a field goal. Missed 43-yard field goal to tie it. That's your ball game. Oregon's head coach took responsibility for the loss because there was a couple things. This was a fun game, and both of these teams are really good. If this game gets played at Oregon, Oregon wins. This game got played at Washington. Washington won. Washington's a lot of fun to watch. Their QB is fun. They have 3 really talented wide receivers. Oregon and Bo Nix, man, the transformation that guy has made. Also, great college running back named Bucky Irving for Oregon. Like mentioned it on here briefly before, this is like the season that the Pac-12 has been waiting for with how good their conference is. They're interested to see if anyone actually makes it out undefeated, and they probably won't because the division is really good. And if you're a traditional college football person, USC, Notre Dame, kind of doesn't get... So there are traditions that get better than that. I guess for me, it's always going to be a frozen moment in time, like Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and those USC teams. They were as like cool of a team as I really saw. I know the U, and the U was their own thing, but those USC teams, Pete Carroll, you guys know how I currently feel about him. And Notre Dame, I mean, they're just Notre Dame. Like, we get jazzed up for them, and it feels like we always overhype them. They actually get a nice feather in their cap. They kind of blow out USC. Number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, has a couple tough turnovers. Notre Dame 48-20 in that one. So USC goes from the unbeatens to the beatens. Unbeatens to the beatens? Doesn't sound great. And the other guy that's probably going to be a top quarterback for this NFL draft, Drake May out of North Carolina. They're undefeated. They beat Miami. You remember Miami should have been undefeated, but their coach basically intentionally lost them the game. They came out and they fought in this game, which that was kind of the question, right? Like, which Miami are you going to get? Are you going to get a pissed-off team that just came off the worst loss you could possibly have and fight? Or are you going to get a team that kind of rolled over? They didn't. Ended up being a good game. North Carolina pulls away massive third quarter, 21 points. So, yeah, I don't know. It was some good college football. I was tuned in, and it led into this week's NFL action, which I want to pat myself on the back. I've been trying to tee up which games I think are going to be the good ones, the must-watch for you. Where I messed up a little bit, Bengals Seahawks. It started out looking like it was going to be a shootout. Geno and the boys marching down the field. Bengals put up a couple touchdowns in their first few drives, and then everyone shut down. Each team only gets a field goal in the second half. It was really ugly football. It felt like the Seahawks were constantly in the red zone. They got nothing done. So that one was on me. Where I was right, Chris Rose's Cleveland Browns coming off a bye week. That matters. Where no one would have been right, P.J. Walker is playing for the Browns. No Deshaun Watson. So that's scary against an undefeated Niners team with a quarterback who hasn't been beaten. The weather was pretty brutal. Brock Purdy was struggling with that for a little bit. And the other thing for the Niners, they lose Christian McCaffrey and Debo in this game. So they're two super utility guys. Two guys you could split out wide, and they can run a deep route. Two guys you could hit for a slant. Two guys you could run a screen for. Two guys you could hand the ball off to. They lost both of them. Changed the whole dynamic of their offense. You could see it. You could feel it. The Browns off the bye week at home. It was a 5.5-point spread, which sniffed a little funny and then ended up a little funnier. Hey, the Niners had a kick to win it, which was a very makeable kick, and the rookie kicker, I think they drafted with their third-round pick, Jake Moody. Come on, man. Got to represent the Jakes better than that. Could have been a 1-point win. Ends up being their first loss of the season. The game I was not super on, Jets-Eagles. How about that? The New York Jets somehow win this game. The Eagles go up. It's 14-3. You think it's about to be what you think it's about to be. Eagles get sloppy with the football. 4 turnovers. They felt careless, and a couple were fluky. Like there was a throw to Goddard where he catches it, he gets popped, and it ends up in the D lineman's hand. Quinnen Williams, both Williams bros get a turnover in this game. That was a fun fact. And then it just felt like it was never happening. With football teams, sometimes you start to sputter and the tires start to spin out and you don't go anywhere. Philly gets shut out in the second half. The Philadelphia Eagles shut out by the Jets. This could be a huge building block win for them as we see Aaron Rodgers hanging out and throwing. What's that about? Like 5 weeks after surgery? 4 weeks?
Like 34 days after?
He was sending a message. Eagles and Niners get their first losses. There will be no undefeated season in the NFL this year. How about that? London game, no, not super into it. Dolphins end up putting up 42 again after being down 14-0, and it was like, oh, big spread in that game, NFL. Nope, Dolphins turn it on. They go nuts. Jags end up getting a big win. If you're still wondering where your Jaguars are at, they're now 4-2. They handle a Minshew game the way you should handle a Minshew game at home, which I've been critical of them before on that. And I guess the Detroit Lions, they went down to Tampa, where Baker and the boys are playing a decent brand of football, right? They were 3-1 at home, wearing the creamsicle unis. Sheesh. Didn't matter. Lions dominated them 20-6. They're for real. I think you got to get, if you still have the mental block that I did a little bit of just like being the Lions. No, they're nasty. This is a road game. Goff throws for 353. St. Brown, the sun god, he has a massive game. They're for real. And then I would just say, BBD, your Giants. That was, I know we were watching with one eye open, but golly.
Yeah.
Could have ended differently.
They had two different opportunities to end that game differently. If you recall, the plays going into half, where they run it with 15-ish seconds left. Not enough time to spike it again.
Yeah.
Other than that critical mistake, Tyrod didn't play specifically awful, but I don't know if that's a good thing, that it didn't feel like a giant drop-off.
Yeah.
Tyrod's one of the better backups.
People are going for Danny Dimes a little bit today. Yeah. I will say, kind of like I've said with other games, the spread in this game was massive. Half of the Giants team being from Buffalo matters, whether it's scouting players or just knowing the system that's been built there. I think that matters. Saquon came back, 24 for 93. And yeah, the Giants had 2 first and goals that resulted in 0 points. So a game they really could have won. And I don't know what that would have meant for them. Would have been a worse look for the Bills, who survive.
They're entering the softer part of the schedule. So if you're the difference between 2 and 4 and 1 and 5 going into that
feels a little different. I'd say a final note from me from the NFL weekend. Won't be talking about Broncos Chiefs. Chargers Cowboys tonight. I guess I'm pretty excited to have that on the second screen.
A lot of fantasy implications in that one.
I do think there's a stat out there that this weekend, I think AFC against NFC was like 7-0 or something like that. Might have to double check that. Let me see if I have any matchups that line up. Bengals are AFC, Seahawks NFC, Browns are AFC now. Yeah, so it is something along those lines, which that would bode well for your Chargers, who are at home tonight. Cowboys are 1.5-point favorites. I'm at a point where I can't look at the game neutrally because I think I'm playing Justin Herbert in 2 leagues, and you let fantasy football get into your head. I don't know. I have no idea if the Cowboys are about to respond and be the NFL, and how about them Cowboys, or if it's going to be LOL Cowboys. I really don't. Because it could also be LOL Chargers pretty quickly. Yeah. So that'll be on the side TV while we're streaming tonight with NLCS. Phillies hosting the Snakes on tonight. We will be back later this week. And sports are kind of fun right now. NBA coming back. End of the baseball playoffs. Football's in a good spot. Boom.